The Pokemon trading card game has had multiple kinds of multi-prize Pokemon, the first being Pokemon EX, introduced in EX Ruby and Sapphire. The most recent of these, Pokemon V, were introduced in Pokemon Sword and Shield, and with them came the first Pokemon VMAX. Pokemon VMAX evolved from Pokemon V, and boast the highest HP totals ever made in the game. Power creep is something Pokemon is no stranger to. Multi-prize Pokemon have been growing in power since Black and White, and many tag team GXs were rather extreme. ADP, for instance, is a format-defining card. Tag teams, much like VMAXs, were also quite extreme when introduced. Basic Pokemon, boasting the highest HP totals ever and also giving 3 prize cards when defeated. However, many were not the greatest attackers and were more useful for their utility. VMAXs were not exactly made equal to tag teams. When VMAXs were first released, they were bulky Pokemon with strong attacks that could 2-hit KO other Pokemon V or VMAX with no modifiers, but when some started to break the mold, it became clear which VMAXs were a cut above the rest. In this video, we're going to go through every Pokemon VMAX, and I'll give my brief thoughts on what they do, how good I think they are, and how I've seen them played. Meowth VMAX has 300 HP and 1 attack that does 200 damage for 4 colorless energy. Colorless VMAX are powerful for their flexibility, and theoretically this Pokemon's role in any type of deck could make it very powerful. G-Max Gold Rush's extra effect of drawing 3 cards makes it reminiscent of Zacian V, but ultimately this early Pokemon VMAX is outclassed by Snorlax VMAX, released in the same expansion. If you're interested in Max Gold Rush's effect, try playing Greedent VMAX instead. Lapras has 320 HP and 1 attack that does 90 damage for 3 colorless energy, and does 30 more damage for each water energy attached to it. This type of attack is a classic in Pokemon. This Pokemon could have been much more potent if it was able to be used well in multi-type box decks. In water-type decks, however, I think this Pokemon is one of the more well-designed Pokemon VMAX. Simple, but with an attack effect that scales well into the late game. It starts at 180 damage for 3 water energy, but can get very high with a lot of the great water-type support in the standard format. However, it takes time to set up, and the Pokemon V can't support itself, so its role is well designed as a late-game cleaner. Try playing this with cards like Ice Dance Frosmoth, Melanie, and Arceus V-Star. Morpeko is a very simple Pokemon VMAX. 300 HP and 1 attack which does 180 damage and 20 to all benched mons. This is a very standard format for a VMAX, dropping close to 200 damage with a small additional effect which you can control with a specialized deck. I would have liked to see this Pokemon do something more interesting as a mascot Pokemon for this generation. You're probably familiar with Morpeko's Hangry form, which has a few cards as well. Perhaps this attack could have had a different effect on odd-numbered turns? This Pokemon V is not that good either, which makes this VMAX kinda bad, especially with the lightning-type options introduced later on. Stonjourner is really simple, with a lot of HP at 330 and dunking a big 200 for 3 fighting energy. Its first attack, Stone Gift, for 1 fighting energy lets you attach a fighting energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon and heal 120 damage from it. While this effect is interesting and can make it a cool support option for the mid-game, 120 healing doesn't exactly hold up in the current state of the format, especially at the cost of your turn. If you're interested in playing this card, try it with Arceus V-Star. Snorlax is the better of the 2 colorless VMAXs released in Sword and Shield, with a staggering 340 HP and a great attack for 3 energy, dealing 60 damage with 30 extra for each of your benched Pokemon, a total of 210 if you have a full bench. This is one of the best walls in Standard if you're trying to play it now with a great HP total. Unfortunately, it will struggle against decks that target weakness, but cards like Single Strike Urshifu are going for the one-hit knockout anyway. Rebel Clash's first VMAX is Rillaboom VMAX, the first Grass-type VMAX, pulling 330 HP with 2 attacks. Rilla's main attack is Max Beating, dealing 130 damage for 4 energy, and an option to discard up to 3 Grass energy with an extra 50 damage for each. This enables you to deal up to 280 damage, enough to KO most V-Stars, but for just 2 discarded energies, you can get 230, which is enough damage to KO most Vs. Rillaboom V is great too, with a strong attack and a setup move to search for basic Grass Pokemon. Overall, I think this is a great example of a Pokemon VMAX. Tons of power and survivability at the cost of high investment and maintenance. This card is still really playable. Try pairing it with Arceus V-Star and Voltage Beat Rillaboom. This and the next 2 Pokemon also got new prints in Fusion Strike, which I'll cover later. This Pokemon is a bit different to other released VMAXs. Cinderace has 320 HP and has 2 attacks. Max Pyro Ball is your consistent damage option, doing 170 damage for 3 energy and burning the defending Pokemon. This, combined with Counter, which does 30 damage plus the damage Cinderace took in the last turn, is a fantastic move for a Pokemon VMAX, able to utilize its great HP total. The only problem is that a lot of things are able to 2-hit KO a 320 HP Pokemon, and if you have to use Counter after one of those hits, your opponent is likely to knock Cinderace and take 3 prize cards. Combined with a poor Pokemon V and a weak main attack by modern standards, this VMAX is quite bad. I can't recommend playing this Pokemon now. Inteleon is one of the best VMAXs printed around this time. Its first attack, Hydro Snipe, does 60 damage and puts an energy attached to the defending Pokemon back into your opponent's hand. This attack allows you to slow your opponent's setup and accelerate your own more safely after you get the VMAX in play. Max Bullet does 160, which isn't spectacular damage, but the 60 damage snipe to the bench is a scary chunk for taking out bench sitters and Pokemon waiting to come in. This chip, combined with another Max Bullet, can KO almost any Pokemon that isn't a VMAX. Overall, the Pokemon V is quite weak, but with how Hydro Snipe incentivizes you to evolve early, I think this VMAX is good. Powerful, but unable to solo other Pokemon VMAX. There are lots of great water type builds in Standard. Try it with popular cards like Suicune V, Ice Dance Frostmoth, and Melanie, and see what you can come up with. I love this Pokemon on paper. A lightning type Pokemon that interacts with poison is super interesting. When it released, there were 2 Pokemon V that it could evolve from. The promo one could poison enemies for 3 energy and 120 damage, and the regular one could do it for 1 energy and 20 damage. This Pokemon also had the same gimmick as the VMAX, doing extra damage against poison enemies. While 240 damage is good, it's quite hard to see G-Max Riot hitting its max damage. Poison is quite easy to shake. Despite this Pokemon can still drop 320 over 2 turns, enough to KO most VMAXs. I think this is a great Pokemon VMAX, simple and lacking power alone, but with support it is able to become a great and unique attacker. Could try playing this with Gardevoir VMAX. Just an idea I'm coming up with while writing the script right now. Dragapult has been one of the most notorious VMAXs since its inception, with 320 HP and 2 attacks. This Pokemon reaches its maximum power for just 2 energies, 130 damage with 5 damage counters to the bench. The power of this effect and the low cost of the attack threatens to completely outclass Inteleon VMAX. Dragapult can easily be evolved and powered up on turn 2, and from there it can destroy unprepared players. This Pokemon is easy to play. Try playing it with cards like Shady Dealings Drizzile and Inteleon, and Fog Crystal. I have never seen anyone play Malamar, but when it was released, I really don't think it was that bad. Another simple VMAX with a HP total of 310 and a 180 damage attack for 3 energy, with a small hand disruption effect. This Pokemon is extremely simple and doesn't really look like a Dark-type Pokemon, being a straightforward attacker. It doesn't really do anything offensive or obscene, but as a result, it hasn't left an impact either. Copperajah is the card to play if no one will trade you Zacian V. It has 2 attacks, the first doing 100 for 3 energy, with 100 extra to basic Pokemon, and the other doing 240 for 4 energies. It's very hard to justify playing this Pokemon when Zacian V exists and pulls the same numbers for cheaper and easier setup. The V doesn't do it any favors either. Overall, Zacian pushed this Pokemon out of having a niche completely, and as a result, we have never seen it have a foothold in the metagame. I'd like to argue, however, that this is a good Pokemon VMAX. High energy costs justify the big HP number. It just exists in a metagame that outclasses it. There is a Metal-type Pokemon VMAX we'll look at later down the line that is due to outlast Zacian, unlike Copperajah, that I think does what this Pokemon attempts better. Darkness Ablaze gives us a classic Butterfree card with Butterfree VMAX. Its only attack does 150 damage and confuses and poisons the defending Pokemon for 3 energies. This disruption effect, combined with a free retreat cost, seem like the perfect features for an early game Pokemon, but the 3 energy cost somewhat misses the mark, meaning Butterfree fell by the wayside. I would have liked to see this Pokemon be able to deal this poison and confusion dual effect for a small amount of damage and a low energy cost, to put a wall in front of the opponent that is a challenge to remove, and then have a different attacking option with a higher energy cost to allow it to hit really hard if it has to go out swinging. Overall, it seems like this Pokemon needed some more time in design. This Charizard card is both an exemplary Charizard card and a great VMAX. For a huge energy cost, it can absolutely dunk every card in the format with a 300 damage G-Max Wildfire. This is how I believe every Pokemon VMAX should have been designed, across the board. Huge Pokemon that sit in the back being powered up over time, waiting for their moment to deliver critical knockouts. If your opponent targets them, however, they can be tricky to use before they're ready, and devastating to lose at 3 prize cards. I love this VMAX. Brilliant Stars showed this card a lot of love with Arceus V-Star, Charizard V-Star, Double Turbo Energy, and Magma Basin, so if you're keen on Charizard, try playing it with those cards. Centiskorch is a whole different type of VMAX, a snowball Pokemon that starts out with a low cost and power, but as a result of its attack, gains power over the match. This Pokemon is a very simple one to understand, and relies on quick setups and momentum to secure game wins. Unfortunately, this speed means nothing against Dragapult VMAX's speed and consistency, and would later be outclassed at its specific gimmick by Blissey V. Grimmsnarl is another Pokemon that wants to sit in the back and nuke a fucker for up to 270 damage. Its variable attack cost and damage make it threatening anywhere on the table, and able to compete in damage numbers at max power with Charizard VMAX. This is another great VMAX, but Dark-type is about to get its definitive VMAX card. Eternamax is insane. 340 HP, one-sided Skyfield, and an attack that can deal up to 270 damage for 2 energy. This Pokemon seems like it requires a lot of setup, but it is shockingly easy to fill up a bench with up to 8 Dark-type Pokemon. And with how cheap it is to power up Eternatus, that bench can be filled with more strong attackers, including more VMAXs. This card is nuts and has no right to attack with its tiny energy cost. Play it with cards like Crobat V, Trade Liepard, or Sableye V. If it's Dark-type, it probably works with Eternatus. Scizor feels like a second try at creating a VMAX to compete with Zacian V. It did not succeed. Salamence feels like one of the best VMAXs no one uses. It did admittedly power creep Meowth and Snorlax out of existence, but it's Salamence and he's cool, so it's fine. Max Wings does 240 damage for 4 colorless energy, and it can't attack next turn. Zacian V proved this attack effect is meaningless in the current format. However, this Pokemon is a little bit more costly to set up. Despite this, however, I think this is a great, flexible VMAX which could have a home on many a team. Dreadnought is another extremely simple VMAX, dealing 160 damage for 3 energy with 80 more damage on a coin flip. Due to the coin flip effect, this card struggles to output consistent damage, but it's not terribly expensive and has a great ability to play defensively. This fits into the generic VMAX group that is more designed for collectors than for players. Given how popular Gardevoir is, I'm surprised how weak this VMAX is. It deals a flat 180 for 3 energy with an additional effect of healing 50 damage after attacking. Theoretically, this VMAX could be played defensively in a healing-centric build, however with how healing is in the current format, it's not the most consistent. With how much damage other Pokemon can dish out, you're effectively looking to get a number of heads with lucky Ice Pop to survive an additional hit. This card mostly just fits into the generic VMAX grid. Alcremie is kind of insane. Raichu V is currently getting a bit of hype, and this card's attack has an almost identical effect. Gmax Whisk lets you discard any number of energy from any of your Pokemon, and deals 60 damage for each energy discarded in this way. I think this move design is super sick, being really flexible and able to dunk a VMAX for 6 energies. The energies not having a type requirement also makes it incredibly flexible. This Pokemon could have been even more potent if it attacked for colorless energy, but maybe then it would just be the best card. Orbeetle is a card that could have been really good. Its attack does 50 damage, plus 50 more for each energy attached to the defending Pokemon. Against other VMAXs with big energy costs, it can do upwards of 250 damage. Unfortunately, with the way the metagame has evolved, this card's damage output isn't consistent, nor even very high. It does have a great spread ability, which allows you to put 10 damage down across your opponent's bench every turn, but it isn't quite enough to redeem this card. Maybe try putting it on the bench in a spread deck. Darmanitan has 320 HP and 1 attack which deals 200 damage for 4 water energy, and also deals 30 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. I think this card is great. Great attack with a powerful secondary effect that can clean benches if left unchecked. If you're interested in this card, I would have to steer you towards Surfing Pikachu VMAX, which basically does this effect better. Pikachu VMAX has 310 HP and 1 attack which does 120 damage for 3 lightning energy. You may also choose to discard all of its energy to deal 150 extra damage for a total of 270. This damage is great, but quite expensive to perform. Later in the format we would get cards like Dynamotor Flaffy, and the supporter Rose was already in the format to restore this energy cost. So overall I think this is a great card. Colossal is a great, self-sufficient attacker that never really found its mark in Standard, but is great in Expanded thanks to some great support. Its first attack, Eruption Shot, deals 40 damage and discards the top card of your deck. If it is an energy card, you get 90 more damage and get to attach that energy card to Colossal. This is a great way to power up its second attack, Gmax Boulder, which deals a solid 240 damage. Overall, I think this is a great card. Aegislash is out here looking like an Ultra Beast with this attack. Max Hack does 160 plus 30 more damage for each prize card you have taken. This gets up to 310 damage at 5 prize cards, enabling easy knockouts on almost anything in your late game. This card rarely gets played, but overall I think it's super interesting and could be a great option in a metal type deck, even today. But also, you could just play Zacian V. Togekiss is one of the first VMAX cards released with the intention of being a support card. For 2 colorless energy, it deals 120 damage and allows you to search your deck for 2 cards and put them in your hand. While this card has quite a powerful effect, the ubiquity of Marnie in the format means that you're likely to lose these cards. Not every hand has a Marnie though, so this card isn't useless. You can play it in the early game to ease your setup and soften up big V and VMAX Pokemon. Dhelmise is like the grass type version of Zacian. Its main attack, Max Anchor, does 240 damage for 3 energy, but you cannot use it on consecutive turns. Swinging Chain deals 30 damage for each grass energy attached to Dhelmise. At a full power up, Swinging Chain can follow up a Max Anchor for 90 damage, allowing you to swing for 330 across 2 turns, enough to knock out all but the most durable VMAXs. This is one of the best grass type VMAXs printed and can be the focal point of any grass deck. Crobat V is one of the best support cards printed for standard, but once it hits the bench, it can be a liability for the player. Crobat VMAX aims to turn a support Pokemon into an attacker. Unfortunately, its low HP and weak attacks mean it can only really be used as a tech option. Crobat puts up similar numbers to Malamar VMAX, but also has a cheaper attack option that cycles it to the bench. This card is definitely playable, with its best niche in my opinion as a backup attacker for a Tornadus VMAX. Ditto isn't really a serious card, but against certain decks it can actually be devastating. Ditto V is a support Pokemon that allows you to switch it with any basic Pokemon V from your discard pile, but if you choose not to use that effect, you can evolve Ditto to Ditto VMAX. For 3 colorless energy, it can use one of the defending Pokemon's attacks. Against some Pokemon, it can unload huge damage, but there are a lot of instances in which this means Ditto has no attacking options. Much like Crobat, Cramorant is one of the OG Pokemon Vs, able to manipulate your hand in the early game. Cramorant VMAX is the option to evolve it, but it is actually worse than Crobat VMAX. For 3 colorless energy, it lets you flip 3 coins and deals 80 damage for each heads. This effect is doo-doo ass. Even for 3 heads, which is a 1 in 8 chance, you only deal 240 damage, which isn't really worth it for the risk. You shouldn't play this card, but Cramorant V is good. Eevee is a card that is mostly for collectors, but the effect of its attack can make it irritating to remove with a bit of luck. For 3 colorless energy, it deals 150 damage, and when the defending Pokemon attempts an attack next turn, it has to flip a heads or else it'll fail. Overall, this card doesn't really see play. Don't try to change that. Venusaur was actually the first card I ever built a deck around. It has 330 HP and 2 good attacks. Forest Storm, for 2 colorless energy, deals 30 damage for each grass energy attached to all your Pokemon. With the exceptional energy acceleration options in the format like Voltage Beat Rillaboom, this attack can be powered up very effectively and reach staggering amounts of power. Venusaur's other attack is no slouch either. For 4 energy, Gmax Bloom deals 210 damage and heals Venusaur for 30. This attack is quite powerful and gives it good survivability as well. This is probably my favourite grass-type VMAX. Blastoise is similar to Venusaur, boasting the same HP and similar energy cost. Pikarom enjoyers, or even players now with Arceus V-Star, might find Blastoise's first attack familiar. Grand Falls costs 3 water energy and deals 120 damage, and accelerates 3 water energies from your deck to your benched Pokemon. Compared to other similar attacks, the damage is quite low for the cost, but Gmax Bombard is the real damage dealing option here, dealing 220 damage for 4 water energy and hitting 2 benched Pokemon for 30. This VMAX is overall solid, but nowadays you would rather play Arceus V-Star. If you're trying to play this now, try using a small Pokemon count with lots of great trainers. Flapple's attack is not that great. For 3 energy, it deals 250 damage and deals 10 less for each damage counter it has on it. This means that if Flapple takes 250 damage or more, it's a 3 prize card liability that cannot do anything. Coupled with a higher than standard retreat cost, this card is quite bad. Victini has a reputation for being the solo attacker in a deck. Its first attack, Spreading Flames, deals no damage, but allows you to accelerate 3 fire energy from your discard pile to your benched Pokemon for 1 colorless energy. Its main attack, Max Victory, deals 100 damage for 2 energy, and does 120 more damage to Pokemon V. This amount of damage at such a low cost is incredibly strong, and can annihilate decks without VMAX incredibly quickly. Victini VMAX is often seen with a minimal bench, accelerating other Victinis to get really quick knockouts and scoops. Tapu Koko VMAX was printed because I think they were annoyed no one was playing Tapu Koko V, but Tapu Koko V is a better attacker. Paralysis is a powerful status condition in TCG, but I don't know that this VMAX is worth it just for that. Single Strike Urshifu is insane. It deals 270 damage with its main attack, but it is designed to be powered up by Single Strike energies, which each grant it 20 extra damage. This means with a maximum of 4 single strike energies, Urshifu can hit an attack number of 350 damage, enough to knock out any VMAX from full HP. Its penalty is to discard energy, but with single strike Houndoom and Urn of Vitality, it is surprisingly easy to get this guy up and running again after an attack. This VMAX is insane. In addition to single strike Raw Houndoom, try it with Umbreon VMAX. Rapid Strike Urshifu is also crazy. This is where Pokemon VMAX start to deviate from their original patterns while still remaining strong. Its first attack, Gale Thrust, does 30 damage for 1 fighting energy, and if it moved to the active spot from the bench this turn, it does 120 more. 150 for 1 energy is very simply insane. This attack is so easy to set up with cards like Tower of Waters. G-Max Rapid Flow is also crazy, dealing 120 damage to 2 Pokemon for 3 energies. You do have to discard them, but with it being super easy to power up in just a couple of attachments thanks to Rapid Strike energy, this Pokemon can dish out immense bench damage really fast. Corviknight's attack does 10 more damage than Zacian V, and has a decent ability. You have to evolve it, and it doesn't have Intrepid Sword, so it's still not as good as Zacian. Okay, that's probably not a fair judgment. They're definitely trying to make better Metal VMAXs now. Lustrous Body is a great ability for a VMAX, able to avoid chip damage from Pokemon like Galarian Zigzagoon and Quick Shooting Inteleon, meaning opponents have to get all the way through its 320 HP. Despite this, it is still not as good as Zacian V. Celebi V was a setup Pokemon for Grass type, introduced at the beginning of Sword and Shield. Celebi VMAX aims to make it more bulky while still able to search out 2 Pokemon with a bit of damage and healing to go with it. While the attack is cheap, it doesn't really hit the mark for making a strong VMAX. Blaziken VMAX is one of my favourite VMAXs, a Fire-type VMAX that attacks for 2 colourless energy and can accelerate energies from the discard pile to bench Rapid Strike Pokemon, including special energies. This is a great VMAX for consistency in Rapid Strike decks. Honestly, this card didn't have to be a VMAX, it could have served the same purpose in its V form, but I assume they wanted this effect to be costly if knocked out. Ice Rider is a fantastic VMAX. It has 2 good attacks, each costing 2 energies. Ride of the High King deals 10 damage plus 30 more for each benched Pokemon, meaning it can do 160 with a full bench. For just 2 energy, this is already crazy damage, but it gets better. Max Lance does 10 damage and allows you to discard up to 2 energy from it. For each discarded energy, it deals an additional 120 damage. This attack's power is crazy, dealing 250 damage on 2 discarded energies. With cards like Capacious Bucket being popular in Water Deck and Melanie released at the same time, this attack penalty is extremely manageable and makes Ice Rider a force to be reckoned with. Shadow Rider is also an exceptional VMAX. Max Geist requires 3 colourless energy and deals 10 damage plus 30 more for each psychic energy attached to all your Pokemon. We mentioned before how strong this attack's effect can be with Venusaur VMAX, but Shadow Rider takes it to the next level with its ability. Underworld Door lets you accelerate a psychic energy from your hand to one of your bench psychic Pokemon, and if you do, you can draw 2 cards. This is a crazy fast acceleration ability, and with cards like Fog Crystal and a couple Calyrex in play, this can get games going extremely fast. Shadow Rider is very self-sufficient, but this card pairs well with Arceus V-Star as well. This VMAX may just be outclassed by Stonjourner VMAX released all that time ago. G-Max Cyclone has an interesting ability for redistributing energy, but I don't think it's all that, and I don't reckon the wider community does either, because I haven't seen this card played. Galarian Slowking V and VMAX are a couple of cards which you should match into to see if your deck works. Max Toxify puts a 12 damage poison effect on the defending Pokemon, forcing you to switch out or get dunked for huge poison damage. Galarian Slowking V similarly has Word of Ruin, which tells your opponent to switch or be knocked out. If your deck can't deal with these cards, you probably need to update your list. There are decks which can utilize these cards to great effect, but I personally don't see much benefit to playing them with some of the powerhouses going around that can secure knockouts before burning through all the switching cards in a deck. Metagross is where Metal type gets its first VMAX that can be the solo attacker in a deck, though it still loves Zacian support. For 1 energy, Metagross can search out 2 cards from the deck, which we have established on Cramorant V is an amazing ability for the early game. Its main attack, Max Rush, deals 100 for 2 energy and deals 150 more when used on the next turn. This is enough damage to knock out another VMAX and is a great attack effect on a VMAX. The longer Metagross can stay in the active spot, the better, as every turn it gets to attack, it's swinging for 250 damage. VMAX is a perfect card type for this effect, as with its great bulk, it can hang around for quite a while. Due to its low energy cost, it is also viable to heal with cards like Cheryl in the format. This is a strong VMAX which takes a specialized deck to run. Much like Blastoise VMAX, it loves to have a lot of trainers to support it. Tornadus VMAX is one of those VMAXs no one plays. Its main attack, Max Wind Spirit, deals 120 damage for 4 colorless, and does 120 more if there's a stadium play and discards the stadium. This Pokemon can be powered up with single strike energy to get more damage on its attack, but with its effect activated, it's still probably going to have to 2-hit KO its opponent. This Pokemon definitely has a lot of potential, but someone has to actually play it to realize it. Leafeon VMAX's main strategy is using Grass Knot, which costs 2 energy and deals 60 damage for each energy and your opponent's retreat cost. This, combined with the Stadium Galar Mine, enables Leafeon to dish out massive damage to most Pokemon in the metagame, and to the biggest Pokemon with bigger retreat costs, 1-hit KOs. These are becoming increasingly rare as time goes on, however. Max Leaf is also a solid attack with decent damage for 3 energies, and a healing effect identical to Venusaur VMAX, giving this Pokemon good longevity. This Pokemon is usually supported by Shady Dealings, and is complemented by Leafeon V-Star. Trevenant VMAX is another Grass-type VMAX with a unique gimmick. Missing in the Forest deals 40 damage for each supporter card in your opponent's discard pile. While this effect can stack up quickly, the effect is pretty much impossible to guarantee, especially as there aren't a great spread of supporters in Standard and no Verse Seeker. If this card was for supporters in the player's own discard pile, it could have been amazing. With Ultra Ball entering the format in Brilliant Stars, discarding supporters is getting easier, and in Expanded, with cards like Battle Compressor and even Porygon Z GX, Trevenant could have been a beast. Unfortunately, its main gimmick fails to hit the mark. Its other attack, Max Tree, is a very normal VMAX attack. You could try playing this in the Durant Mill deck in Standard. Flareon is a single strike card with 1 attack for 3 energies. It discards the top 5 cards of your deck and deals 100 damage for each energy card discarded. This attack effect has been done before, Massive Eruption Typhlosion in Breakthrough, and most recently Infernal Vortex Infernape in Brilliant Stars. It's quite gimmicky, and while those Pokemon are stage 2s, they require less energy to power up, which in turn makes you more likely to draw energies during the attack. Because of this, Flareon VMAX is arguably outclassed at its own job, though I don't think the effect is that bad for a VMAX Pokemon. It's a neat way to do a Fire-type VMAX that isn't just wanting a huge amount of energy attachments. Gyarados VMAX is a very simple VMAX card, with high energy costs and straight damage on its attacks. It is effective as a late game cleaner, though you would probably prefer to just use Blastoise as it deals similar damage and has a purpose in the early game too. Vaporeon has a neat first attack, Bubble Pod, which for 1 energy allows you to put a water Pokemon from your discard pile onto your bench and attach 3 water energies from your discard pile to that Pokemon. This enables you to set up beefy water type attackers and evolution Pokemon in just 1 turn. This effect is very powerful for setup, but it requires some tricky manipulation to work. Max Torrent deals 100 damage for 3 energy and 100 more if the defending Pokemon has any damage on it. This damage is easy to come by cards like Galarian Zigzagoon or Quick Shooting Inteleon, so this condition is easily fulfilled. Vaporeon is also a Rapid Strike card, so you can power it up quickly with Rapid Strike energy. Overall, this is a powerful and versatile VMAX in water decks. Glaceon isn't the best attacker, but its ability really sells it. Crystal Veil stipulates that Glaceon cannot take damage from any Pokemon VMAX except other Glaceons. Its attack isn't very powerful, 150 damage plus 30 to a benched mon, but you almost don't care, with the VMAX damage immunity being prevalent. This Pokemon does come with a debilitating metal weakness, which means it gets one-shot by Zacian V, but that is a deserved check in my opinion. This is a powerful card and a great partner to Vaporeon. If you're interested in this effect, you should check out Zamazenta V as well. Jolteon is one of the fastest cards in the game. Max Thunder Rumble deals 100 damage for 2 energies, and also does 100 damage to a benched Pokemon that already has any damage counters on it. This makes it very hard to cycle against Jolteon to avoid knockouts. Jolteon is one of the most popular decks in the format, but with the release of Wave Veil Manaphy, it's taken a bit of a hit. Despite this, there are lots of situations where damage can come about to a player's own bench Pokemon, like Single Strike Houndoom and Magma Basin, so don't count Jolteon out. Dracozolt could be one of the most difficult Pokemon to remove. With 330 HP and the move Spark Trap, which deals 60 damage for 1 lightning energy, and stipulates that if a Pokemon attacks it during the next turn, that Pokemon deals 120 damage. It can be hard to play around this effect, especially when Dracozolt also boasts a 200 damage nuke in max impact for 4 energies. Against a skilled opponent or a deck that targets weakness, however, Dracozolt is easier to handle. Espeon has a good ability and a niche attack. Solar Revelation prevents all effects of attacks from your opponent's active Pokemon from affecting your Pokemon with energy attached. Max Mindstorm for 3 energy deals 60 damage for every energy attached to all your opponent's Pokemon. This VMAX is tricky to make use of, but if you can find use cases for it, go for it. With just 6 energy on your opponent's board, Espeon can one-hit knock out anything. Sylveon is a Rapid Strike card with 2 effects. Precious Touch is the same as Stonjourner. For 1 Psychic Energy, attach an energy card from your hand to one of your benched Pokemon and heal 120 damage from it. What you're really here for is Max Harmony, an attack for 3 colorless energy that does 70 damage, plus 30 more for each different type of Pokemon on your bench. With a full bench, this can deal 220 damage, and there are tons of amazing Pokemon of different types that can support Sylveon. Rapid Strike Search Octillery, Zeraora V, Blaziken VMAX, Urshifu VMAX, and Dynamotor Flaffy is a bench I could only dream of setting up. Lycanroc is a card that they kind of step back from making amazing. Hunting Claw, for 1 fighting energy, knocks out one of your opponent's Pokemon with 60 HP or less remaining. This seems like a card made to synergize with its main attack, to chase down retreating active Pokemon without boss's orders, but Max Edge just doesn't do enough to threaten VMAXs. It deals 190 for 3 energy with 30 damage to a benched mon. If this attack could pull close to 250, maybe with some support and Choice Belt, it could be amazing, but right now it's super rogue. Could be a cool card to pair with Rapid Strike Urshifu. Umbreon is a staple in most Single Strike and Dark type decks now, and for good reason. Its ability, Dark Signal, gives you the effect of boss's orders when you play Umbreon from your hand. This is already great, but being able to hit 160 damage as a Dark type became really important not long after Umbreon's release, which we'll get to later. Garbodor is an interesting Pokemon that aims to shore up Poison's weakness in the current format. Rubbish Collecting is a dynamic ability that allows it to have 2 Pokemon tools attached at any time. G-Max Malodor deals 120 damage for 2 energies and poisons the opponent, which is already quite good, but also prevents the defending Pokemon from retreating next turn. With the popularity of Air Balloon for rotation, this creates a huge problem for teams as they have to deal with Garbodor or die trying. Anyone who knows me knows I love this card. It has a fantastic ability in Azure Pulse, which allows you to discard your hand and draw 3 cards. This means that this attacker is also its own draw supporter. Max Burst, for 1 fire and 1 lightning energy, deals 20 damage and allows you to discard any amount of either type of energy, dealing 80 damage for each energy discarded in this way. While you can't discard both types of energy at the same time, which is definitely a weakness, it becomes a game of building up either large amounts of fire or lightning energy to secure big knockouts. This card can be built in 2 different ways, using Dynamotor Flaffy for lightning type builds and Magma Basin and Kindler for fire type decks. Both builds love Arceus V-Star. Duraludon is absolutely crazy. Its ability Skyscraper makes it immune to damage from Pokemon with special energy attached, which is incredibly powerful. This can shut down the main mode for Rapid Strike, Single Strike, and Fusion Strike decks. That alone should speak to its power. Its attack, G-Max Pulverization, is surprisingly easy to set up, with 1 fighting and 2 metal energy dealing 220 damage and ignoring effects on the defending Pokemon. This VMAX is a beast and one of the best in the format right now. Try playing it with Arceus V-Star. Flying Pikachu doesn't do very much damage, but its effect can take apart decks focused on basic Pokemon. Max Balloon deals 160 damage and prevents Pikachu from being damaged by attacks from basic Pokemon on the next turn. This is probably not your main lightning type attacker, but you can definitely include it in a deck that is struggling against V-heavy decks. Surfing Pikachu is very similar to Galarian Domanitan VMAX, dealing 160 damage for 3 water energy and hitting the whole enemy bench for 30 damage. This effect is much stronger on a lower energy cost, and this Pokemon's attack cost and typing makes it a good option as both a main attacker or as a tech option in water type decks. The Galar starters got new V and VMAX cards with Fusion Strike's release to highlight their Gigantamax forms, and they get to take advantage of the new battle styles. Rillaboom VMAX is Rapid Strike and deals 180 damage for 4 energy, with 40 damage to 2 benched Pokemon. I'd argue this isn't as good as the original Rillaboom as an attacker, but given it doesn't discard energy and can be powered up with Rapid Strike cards, this card definitely has potential. Try it with Voltage Beat Rillaboom or Blaziken VMAX. Cinderace is a Single Strike VMAX with 1 attack that deals 230 damage and burns the opponent, but prevents Cinderace from attacking next turn. Because this card is Single Strike, most of its attack can be powered up with Single Strike energy, however you aren't getting enough damage to compete with Single Strike Urshifu. Both Pokemon are aiming for one-hit knockouts on big VMAXs, but Cinderace needs more support. This card isn't unviable by any means though, and can hit weakness on lots of grass and metal type Pokemon for knockouts with no modifiers. Inteleon VMAX plays with the idea of quick shooting Inteleon by letting you do it twice by discarding a water energy. While this ability is strong, it's coupled with a weak attack that decelerates energy from your Pokemon. When your big VMAX is only hitting 140 at max damage, you'd rather have the other Inteleon VMAX and a quick shooting or 2 on the bench. Bolton VMAX doesn't add anything of note to Bolton V. Bolton V is the best lightning energy accelerator in the format, able to search out 2 from the deck at the cost of 1 attachment. It also has an attack for 2 energy that deals 30 damage for each lightning energy attached to all of your Pokemon. Boltund VMAX shares that same attack and has an additional high damage attack for 230 damage. While this damage is good, you would much rather use whatever V or VMAX you powered up using Boltund V. Boltund VMAX only serves to draw attention away from your main attacker and create a 3 prize card liability. If you want to attack with Boltund, play a second Boltund V. This card is Mew VMAX. Mew is totally cooked, and I would love to go over it, but I have way too much to say. The Umbreon bit from earlier, this is what it was about. I'm writing a Mew VMAX video concurrently with this video. When it's uploaded, it'll be in the cards at this timestamp, and in the description of this video. Gengar is a great single strike attacker with 2 good attacks. Against decks heavy on Pokemon V, Fear and Panic can do a lot of damage for a couple of energy, and for 3, it deals a straight up 250. Because this Pokemon can be powered up by single strike energy, with 3 attached it can deal 310, enough to knock a lot of relevant VMAXs. This card is great and a premier attacker for single strike decks. Try playing it like single strike Urshifu. Greedent is a gimmicky VMAX that with the proper setup can steal entire games. Its first attack, Turn a Profit, is the centerpiece of this card, dealing 30 damage and taking 2 extra prize cards if it knocks out a basic Pokemon. It also has a decent damage dealing option in Max Gimme Gimme, dealing 160 for 3 energy, but that isn't really the important part. This deck doesn't excel in Standard, but it does have good support cards like Quick Shooting and Powerful Energy, and shines in Expanded where it can knock out tag teams for 5 prize cards. Kingler has a crazy setup move in Bubbles Galore, searching 5 water energies from the deck and allowing you to attach them however you like. This can set up Kingler itself and a teammate, allowing you to stack the bench with powerful Pokemon very fast. Its second attack, doing 240 for 3 energies, is also exceptional on a Pokemon with setup this good. Try it with Vaporeon or Glaceon VMAX. Mimikyu's max shadow attack isn't much to write home about, but ominous numbers can be devastating against certain decks. For 2 colorless energy, you can put 4 damage counters on your opponent's bench, but if you played Acerola's Premonition from your hand this turn, it goes up to 13 damage counters. Acerola's Premonition isn't even a horrible card, so 130 damage to the bench is quite achievable, especially with cards like Lumineon V. If you can remove an opponent's bench barrier, you can devastate their bench with this card. Aggron wishes it was a single strike Pokemon. It has 2 attacks. Cracking Stomp attacks for 3 energy at 150 damage, and Max Takedown deals 270 damage for 5 energy. With 3 of that cost being colorless, Aggron would have loved to attach some single strike energy and take easy one-hit knockouts, but unfortunately it falls short. This card isn't terrible, however, if you can facilitate its cost. Cards like Arceus V-Star, Quick Shooting Inteleon, and Choice Belt can get it to knock out VMAXs. That's the breakdown on every VMAX out right now. If I missed any details or you think I got something wrong, feel free to mention it in the comments, and I'll do the little heart to pin anything noteworthy. If you're looking for more info, check down there. When new Pokemon VMAX are announced, I'll put up a new video explaining what they do and how you can play them. Thanks very much for watching. Please sub if you enjoyed. I look to be making more Pokemon stuff here on YouTube in the future soon. Also follow my Twitch. I stream every other day at 7 PM Australian time. Alright, thanks. Bye.